So first and foremost, I want to thank the two guys for jumping on here with me on the podcast. I have Wymon and Joe from GoCollect, who I've been trying to get on here for a little bit, and I'm so happy they agreed to come on and talk about the platform a little bit. So, guys, welcome.
Thank you so much, Lawrence.
Yeah, thank you for having us on. We appreciate it.
I want to start at the beginning because I want to know, I think listeners out there kind of want to know how GoCollect got started, what was the idea behind it and how that kind of came to fruition.
I feel like I'm probably best to handle this one.
Sure.
And Joe will have his moment when it comes down to his special intelligence he provides to the site. So I've been with GoCollect probably about 8.5 years now. And GoCollect was started by a man who really, really likes Golden Age comic books. His name is Jeff Meyer. He's our CEO. And when he was a bit younger, he had created a tool just for himself where he would catalog Golden Age comic books and he would track the sales as they happened. And he would he created logarithms and algorithms to chart these, and he baked up this secret sauce, which is our FMV, which has gotten us into trouble and out of trouble over the years. And so he built this little tool for himself just to collect Golden Age comic books. A few years go by and Jeff's on the road, and it's at C2E2 where he meets a man named Tim Ludwikowski. And Tim, after Jeff shows him the tool, Tim says, dude, this is really, you're onto something here. You should make this about all comics and release it as a website, because our industry and hobby is desperately needing something like this. And so Jeff and Tim get to work right away. The website increases. They're overloaded with sales coming in from the various marketplaces that they're ingesting the data from. The website is a bit messy because when you try to add 600,000 comic books, it's a bit hard to stay up to date with all the images, the creators, the authors, the dates, the key statuses. And so maybe 2 years go by where GoCollect is instantly pretty successful in the community collector world, comic collector world. And I stumbled upon it when I was getting into selling some books to help bring back to life an old farm. And I kept stumbling upon GoCollect as the website that was giving me fresh, up-to-date data about books moving in real time, and helped to rekindle my love affair with this collection I'd had from the past. And after some time selling books using their data, I messaged GoCollect, and I got a really thoughtful response back from the CEO. At that point, it was just two people, Jeff and Tim. And they told me that they were looking for someone who was just like I had applied in this letter to them, saying that I'd love to help them. I'd love to help clean up the data, get all the images on there, make everything symmetrical. The website was probably about 65% complete comics at that point. And they wrote back right away and said, it must be a sign. Jeff hired me right away. And at the end of the email, he said, with great power comes great responsibility.
Joe, how did you get involved with GoCollect?
Yeah, so I actually worked for a site called Game Value Now, and that was basically a site that was created by a friend of mine. It was a price guide for all raw video games, all sealed stuff as well, and he took me on to basically audit the data. So all the sales that are coming in from eBay and all the stuff that needs to be looked at, I would go through, audit, make sure all the sales are accurate, make sure sales are actually going through, make sure sales are actually legitimate. And I was with that company from about 2018. And then I want to say in around late 2019, GoCollect actually bought Game Value Now. My friend he was one man. He just couldn't keep up with the site anymore. It was growing too fast and it was becoming too much for him. And he had just started a family, and he just needed to have someone else kind of take it over. So GoCollect came in, they took over the site, and they were kind enough to kind of keep me and kind of loop me into everything. So from then on, about 2019 on, I've been part of the GoCollect team and just being the video game focus for the most part, where that was my specialty, was just anything video game related, anything related to like the data or anything on that front. And then eventually Pokemon cards became another specialty where we eventually kind of dipped our toes into bringing in the Pokemon trading card game onto the site. And that's something that I also had just like a passion for personally. And it just made sense to kind of put me on that front as well. So video games and Pokemon cards are kind of my specialty on the site and where I'm utilized the most with GoCollect.
So it actually brings me to my next point. So assuming that Wymon just said the whole site started with just comics from the original, founder of the company. So how long did it take to get into these other things? I know you guys not only do comics, you do magazines, posters, Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, and now video games. When did that other stuff start to kind of show its head on GoCollect, the website?
So for video games, I know it was around 2019, which is when Jeff had pretty much went full steam into trying to gain as many resources as possible to try to get into the video game market. That's buying Game Value Now was one of the first steps of just basically having all of that data kind of already there. And Game Value Now is a very respected site. And having all of that data back in 2019 was kind of when it kind of started to launch off from there for video games. Yeah. And ever since then, it's just pretty much grown since then with just, taking on more data from more auction houses, not just eBay, getting video game sales from places like Golden, places like Heritage Auctions. Pretty much we're trying to eventually tap into wherever video games are sold. We're trying to basically get that data somehow if we can. So that way we have the most expansive data out there if possible. I know recently too, aside from just video games being added on in those auction houses, we've been experimenting with trying to get crowd reported sales, because this is something that we and Wymon in particular was one of the leaders on this, and saying it's something that's missing from all of these sites, where there's so many deals and sales that go on social media and in different avenues that don't happen on an auction house, that like it'd be nice if there was just some way to maybe have some trace of those, some way to track them, some way to just have some data for them if possible. So we've been toying around with that as well. So that's something we've been just trying to get off the ground and see if it's something that will work and hopefully be useful for people that use the site.
And that's the ultimate goal of GoCollect, is to expand into more than just what, like, the initial value of something is. Speaking to Joe on video games, it's incredibly tough to pinpoint what value is on video games, because there's so many subgenres in that collectible world. There's so many variants to video games.
Absolutely.
It's incredibly nuanced. And so piece by piece and year by year, you try and figure out how best to display that data.
Yeah. And to go back to your original question, because I had a little tangent there, but in 2019 is when video games were added. And I think maybe Wymon could add when concert posters were added. That was probably the next, I want to say, collectible that was added to the site would be concert posters. And I know Wymon was heavy.
Yeah, it was shortly thereafter, but pretty much in the same burst. We put out video games, magazines were around the same time. And maybe it was just video games and concert posters at first. And then magazines came shortly thereafter. And then with the rise of pulps, there's not really any need to separate magazines from pulps. Yeah. And just keep firing them off as they sell, because pulps they're an incredibly hot commodity in the marketplace right now as well.
So let me ask you this, because is there a way, I got to assume most of the people who access a site are looking at comics, but is there a way you guys can like track who's looking at what on the site? Is most of that, data showing people are using the site for comics, or can you see like, yes, they're using it for these other collectibles?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And see, that's where some of our next steps are going to be, is how to best utilize that metadata that's been accumulating every time someone comes to the site. And whether or not you come to the site and you add that particular item to your catalog, to what you're tracking in some way, or declare that it's in your collection, we know that you've been on to a page that maybe has a lot of subgenres to it. Like you just went and you checked out a Bronze Age horror magazine, whereas you're usually like a Marvel superhero kind of guy, you know? And depending on what's in your collection, what kind of pages you've been through, what kind of stuff you're looking at, we should be able to break it down pretty soon and deliver you a more personalized experience based off all of this stuff that's accumulating in the background, and help you figure out who your favorite cover artist is, who you have the most of in your collection, what you're missing from there, some key points to work towards based off who you are as a collector, because there's a lot of data that's been accumulated on this site, and our meetings are more nowadays how to gamify that experience and how to bring people in and let them have fun while they're on the site. Maybe read a fun blog that's informing but also entertaining. Scroll through a few issues of Time magazine or People magazine, and you can literally watch history unfold, you know, week by week. And we have beautiful images. We'll tell you why it's got a key status. You can look at some values as to how it's selling. And then you check your closets.
Yeah. All right, so that brings me to another great point with the introduction of PSA, and we'll get into PSA. But one question: you guys do all these things now, like video games, comics, Magic the Gathering. Any thought on bringing like cards into the mix, like PSA graded cards, or possibly AFA graded action figures, stuff like that, toys that people could track and see
100%.
values on?
Yeah, all those are on the table. Pretty much anything and everything that's collectible, we would love to add at some point. It's more of just a matter of trying to target one specific thing instead of trying to target too many things at once. So like our goal this year so far was to really hit hard on Pokemon, to try to get Pokemon cards on there specifically, especially where they're so expansive with just how many sets there are and just how long they've been around at this point. And just the popularity with them now, especially with just kind of how crazy the Pokemon TCG still is even now. I feel like it's even more crazy now. That's been like one of the biggest focuses, but over time, that's absolutely the goal, is to try to hit as many collectibles as we can, so that if it's something that you collect and it's something that means something to you, not just even financially, but just emotionally, it's something you're attached to, we want to have some way of tracking that and having it on the site. That's our goal.
Yeah. I think that's really smart, considering if you look at collectors who collect comics, who collect multiple things, they have to go to different sites for everything they collect. And a lot of the times there are not, available websites or tracking, facilities for them to be able to track certain things. So I think that would be a tremendous thing if you guys could get everything under one roof, where someone never has to leave the site for what they're looking to track, which that would be amazing. That's something I think all companies would look to kind of aspire to be.
Merging with PSA was a big thing. Getting them on the site, getting a hold of their tech side, so that we have a population report coming from them soon. Population reports coming from CBCS soon. We're working on standardizing FMVs, presenting FMVs for PSA as that becomes available. That's going to take a certain amount of sales first before it can generate the numbers properly. But we have those numbers for CBCS, and we're going to release something like that very soon, and ultimately work towards newer ways of trying to ascertain what the value is that jumps outside of that slab. And right now we're calling it standardizing FMV. It's interesting because I feel like everyone is looking at the books. So who are all these people that are still buying the grade?
Well, I think there's a lot of people, unfortunately, in the comic collecting space who all they do is buy the grade. Unfortunately, being a collector a long time, I got out of that phase very early. I just want to own the things that I want to own. But you kind of led me to my next point about price data, and that I think everyone out there sometimes gets confused about where data is pulled from. So you guys could tell me where the data comes from. Like, I know you guys do Heritage. I know you guys do eBay. We'll get to eBay a little bit more, but what other either auction houses or places that you guys pull data from? Let's not talk about crowd reporting yet, but everything else, could you tell me where it gets pulled from?
Any site that's selling. that is willing to feed us their data, and we ask for it. We don't steal from anyone. Right now, we probably have 15 to 20 partners, ranging from eBay, Heritage, Golden, Comic Connect, a few more like Collectors Comics, the who's emerging now. The Thomas
Yes, Dave.
brothers.
Yep.
Yes, the Wilson brothers, I believe. Yeah. And there's many other emerging. A lot of marketplaces that are stores on eBay are jumping off of eBay, and that gives us the ability to partner with them more directly, so that their data streamlines to us as it sells, and we can offer them more seller exposure on the site that way, as opposed to just being a generic eBay sale that shows up on the site. Now it's that specific shop and their website, whatever name they want to brand themselves as, is being exposed as being able to, close those deals and make those sales. That's who's actually making those sales. It's not just a random eBay sale. We're working towards a lot of seller exposure on the site.
I think that's also good too. I think people want to know where these books are selling so they can actually go find the listing, go look at the book, see what the book actually looks like. Because as you guys know, especially in comics, like one grade does not always equal to the same book in the same grade. There could be varying differences in page quality and, the look of the book as well. So everybody kind of wants to know, where that sale occurred so they can go out and check all these books. I think that's a big thing.
Every marketplace is a little bit different too. A lot of marketplaces, you don't get the true data unless you get into, and I don't quite want to segue there yet, but we're getting close to those crowd reported sales, which was an incredibly polarizing move on our behalf. And it's been nothing but really, really interesting and clean data that's come to us through there. It's actually been a little bit limited compared to where we want to go. We really hoped that there would be a kind of like a plethora of Instagram sellers that would want to get themselves exposed for closing those deals on the site, get their numbers into the marketplace. And, the more data, the better the numbers are overall. But it raises a lot of ethical points too. And this is how I got to know Manu. Before we launched the tool, I contacted Manu because I knew he was the right person to come to and talk to about this. Was the ethical challenge of just coming forth to the community and saying, hey, how do you feel about giving us our sales or your sales, and feeding them into the larger stream of determining where not only the best place to shop for collectibles are, but also the best value you're going to get and expect while you're there compared to others. And then from there, it raises a lot of philosophical questions about the marketplace.
I think another good point, just to make clear too, is for the crowd reported sales, that data does not get mixed in with our FMVs or other data from other sites. So this is their own numbers. These are not mixed in, so that way our data is as clean as possible. That way there's no crowd reported sales that could be potentially swinging it up or down in a way that's maybe not accurate. So just so that's clear, because I know some people were a little confused or a little worried that those crowd reported sales would potentially make their way into like our FMV numbers, which they are not.
So since you brought up crowdfunding, we might as well get on that topic now. But obviously you said it's kind of been a little bit of a slow go from collectors. I know initially when you guys have launched the crowdfunding, you allowed like sales to be disputed. Have you had any or many disputed sales that people have been reporting or nothing?
No. In total, we've probably had about 350 reported sales from, I'd say, maybe close to 100 different people. A lot of them came from Ryan at Automatic Comics, who I believe really enjoys the tool and likes putting up sales that inform the community of information that they might otherwise not know, of course. The community might not know as well that we've introduced a lot of social media components to the crowd reported sales. So you can get on there and you can not only post a sale, but you can talk about it. You can post about why you think it's important to be included and perhaps why it's in the crowd reported section. and why it can be trusted, why it's sold differently because it came from an Instagram channel. And from there, if you want to comment on that, as someone who's checking that sale, you can get on there and you can start a thread as well. But this is all really, really new stuff that it's in the crowd reported sales. It ties in line with the gamification of the site and getting GoCollect ultimately to be more of that one-stop shop where you can come here and you can have a social experience with who you are as a collector.
Have you guys ever thought about like reaching out to certain, I don't want to say dealers or like Instagram hosts? Like I know there's a few big Instagram live hosts like Elite Comics 11, a couple of others that may, direct you guys to some of their dealers if they were interested in posting their sales that they have on these live claim sales. Maybe there's something in it that you both could do for each other, but that would also help, both of you guys saying, hey, being almost like a partner where they're getting something out of it, exposure, and you're getting something out of it as well. And the community is getting something out of it because all the new data that's coming in.
That's part of the growth plan. And it's happening now. It's happening really, really fast too. We played quiet for a lot of years. Like this is probably the first public appearance of GoCollect talking about the database outside of our YouTube channel that we had back at the Comics Boom. We had a lot more people working here back then. Some stuff had happened, and we've become a very minimal crew who's really, really dedicated.
I actually think lately we've been really focused on individual tasks, which I think was something in the past that we were talking about, but also in the past was something that GoCollect was struggling with a little bit. Was you have all these ideas and you have all these things that you want to put on the site, and I think that was part of the problem towards the beginning, was trying to maybe do too many things all at once. And I feel like now we're so focused on taking out individual things at a time. And that's why we've been able to kind of put crowd reporting on there as quickly as we have. We've been able to kind of get Pokemon cards on there within the time period that we had. And we're talking thousands upon thousands of sales data, all the cards that are in there. I feel like even though the team has gotten smaller over the years, our focus and our adaptability of picking what matters the most, picking what things consumers would want to see the most. Where I feel like we're getting better with that, and I feel like that's something that that I've seen just since I've started here was really nice to see. Especially just seeing Pokemon cards come on here was just like great for me. Like I loved being able to be part of that. I loved being able to add them onto the site because it's something that I'm personally attached to. Like I was born in 1990, so I grew up with the Pokemon craze. So to be able to see something like that be a focus was something that was just amazing for me. And another potential thing down the road that we're potentially going to be working on in the near future, hopefully, is getting raw video game data, which is something that I'm really excited for because I do collect graded games, but I primarily collect mint complete in box if I can. So for me to be able to have that on the site and have that data is really exciting. So being able to tackle a lot of these projects, which seemed like they just weren't possible years ago, because we just were we had so many things going on, especially with switching the site over to a new infrastructure, basically. That kind of took precedence over a lot of these fun other projects. And I feel like now that we kind of have that infrastructure nailed down and we're all switched over, we're finally able to start picking apart these fun projects. And that's the hope, is we can just keep knocking each one out and adding more and more fun stuff to the site. And our whole goal is to make the site, like Wymon was saying earlier, fun to use. And there's other sites out there that have data, but they're either a little frustrating to kind of navigate, or they're just not fun. And I guess that's what we want to bring that to the market and to the hobby, is we want you to enjoy using the site. We want you to go on there, and when you're adding comic books or you're adding games or whatever it is to your collection tracker, which is another tool that we have, is being able to kind of log your entire collection on there. And we want that to be fun. We want that to be enjoyable. We want that to be something that you're like, oh man, I can't wait to I just got all these books. I can't wait to log them in there. And just see everything in one place.
I was gonna say, I always have some wild ideas. Have you guys ever thought about making people's collections visible, like allowing them to be able
Yes.
to make it visible
We
so
have
people
that.
can actually?
Yes.
It is that. So
have
someone
that.
could go on somebody's
Yeah.
profile and see all their collection.
You have to make your collection or your profile public.
Public. Yeah, so you
Yeah,
can't do
we
that.
have
And that's
public
the
profiles.
idea. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
and
idea is
lists.
we want to make it like almost like a social media site where
Yeah.
it's not just about like looking up your collection and looking what something's worth, but also kind of getting to maybe see what someone else is collecting, how they collect. And I feel like you can kind of really get to know somebody by kind of what they collect. There's like a
100%.
story to be told depending on like what video games you collect. Like I'm a huge like JRPG guy, so like you kind of see what people are collecting and what they're up to, and just kind of find almost friends, kind of. You know what I mean?
I never knew that you could do that. So can I actually contact somebody else and say, hey, I've been looking for that book. Or you ever want to sell it? Are people allowed to contact each other through the site, or is that not?
I don't believe that's not out yet, but I know eventually that's where it's supposed to be headed.
There are ways. Yeah, no, there are ways. You would access their public profile. Yours would be public. You would have links to anything that they've made public, like their Instagram, their Discord, their YouTube, their Facebook, and from there you can message people off of GoCollect after seeing anything in their lists that they've laid out for sale or for trade or just for view. That's what we were told by our engineers coming into this, was to kind of pump up a lot of the things about GoCollect that a lot of people don't know exist. And sorry, I passed that to Joe earlier because I'd actually forgot what you had asked. You asked us about approaching places like Elite Comics 11, about getting more sales data. And over the last year, I took it to the streets, and then we're going to do more next year, more conventions. I had the chance to go out and shake hands with like Elite Comics and, Torpedo Comics, and I met Swag, a lot of the other people that are selling out there, and just said hi and kind of approached them with the fact that GoCollect is getting close to the point where we'd really love to have you organically just kind of like want to come on with us. We are going to continue to approach all the places out there that we believe in that are selling honestly and fairly on every channel. I'm the one who will say hi to you. It's because I believe in you. And if you ever want to collaborate, GoCollect is here to take your numbers, showcase who you are as a seller in the community, get you more exposure.
Yeah.
Because and that goes for anyone out there as well who thinks they're a very talented author and they want to write more and they have a voice that isn't being expressed about the hobby. Get in touch with us at the site if you'd like to be an author on the site. We love putting more voices on the site. As we get more voices growing, it's going to add to what we're able to deliver as rewards to people who use the site and engage with the site too. We have a lot of engagement from a lot of people, and we'd like to be able to reward that. Eventually, that comes with the gamification.
I think partnerships are good, especially with people who have a voice in the community, whether it be Instagrammers, like I mentioned, Elite Comics 11, YouTubers like myself. You guys mentioned Automatic Comics, Swaggle Manu. I think that's a good plan because people with I don't want to say like what's the word I'm looking for? Like someone has a platform, that's the word, a platform to actually speak on things or who have opinions, who can kind of help with ideas and kind of formulate where everything's are going. I think that's a really good thing. And I wish more platforms and businesses and websites and everybody and everything who's involved in comics, I wish they were more open to that like you guys are. So right now you guys report CGC, CBCS, and now PSA sales for comic sales. What was the thought behind the decision to record PSA right out of the gate, right at the market? What went into that? Could you tell us any behind the scene things that went on that maybe people wouldn't know that you could share?
Well, PSA approached us, surprisingly, blew our minds. Because I think they saw the value in being recorded since day one. And that was part of the value we saw too. We actually had the opportunity to record the very first sale from a new movement or a new player or a new part of the atmosphere of the collecting hobby and get it on record since day one. And with the user base that we have, and kind of anticipating this to happen as well too, that was part of it too. We're in a really interesting part of the hobby where it seems to be slowing down, but there seems to be more somehow, more players, more collectibles. And I mean, Joe, you can speak to that too. Like the Pokemon hobby became the #1 hobby when collectibles dipped down, but it even seems that Pokemon's, like it's not immune to the same trend lines as any other collectible hobby. And when we got into PSA too, the reason we got on Pokemon was just to make sure that everything worked smoothly with PSA before comics came out. And Joe was integral with getting PSA Pokemon up and running on the site,
Appreciate it, man. Yeah. Yeah, being able to have the data out the gate, I think, as far as PSA goes, I think it's just a smart choice just to be able to have that data right from the beginning. I don't think there's any harm. I think it's nothing but positives to be able to say right from the gate, we've been getting every possible PSA sale. We're logging them on there, and we have a fresh, start to basically build up this sales data, this bracket of sales data for this company, instead of trying to swoop in later and gather all these sales, retroactively, and then trying to sort through them later. Being able to have that link right out the gate for comics has been great, and being able to make that connection via the Pokemon cards was just it just worked. It was just like two birds for us. It was like we got to get Pokemon cards on there, which you pretty much need PSA, because if you collect Pokemon cards, PSA has been pretty much the king in PSA cards for a very long time now. Now that is changing. It is evolving. CGC is like gaining ground. Beckett and everything has also been for the top, black label cards have always had a market. But being able to get our foot in with PSA and being able to kind of have that data and have that connection out the gate has been nothing but helpful. And they've been great the whole time too. So it's been just a great partnership for sure.
Yeah, they're amazing to work with.
The one thing I'll say is, like, you guys are the only website, any type of tracking information for collectibles where you can go and see CGC, CBCS, and now PSA when regarding comics side by side, so nobody has to go anywhere, which is a big deal. Like I know CBCS has struggled a bit with what everything has gone on. CGC has always been the top dog when we're talking about comics, but now with PSA's, I don't want to say emergence, but coming to the game, people, especially collectors, are really enamored with what things sells for. It's just the way it is. I don't think we're ever going to get away from that. But having that data side by side to be able to see what's happening, it really tells you how the market's going. And that's what I think is the most important data point of all.
Yeah. And we're actually currently working on a tool where we're going to be able to compare grades, essentially. So you can basically pick the grades that you want and be able to compare what they sell for amongst the grading companies. So if you want to compare, like a 9.8, CGC compares to with like a PSA, you can maybe kind of see where they fall and see, where the values lie. And another thing that's great about the site is while you're doing that, all of our sales data that we have on the site, we save the pictures. We have like high res pictures that you can, like you were saying earlier, you don't just buy the grade, you buy the book. So a lot of people do that. So to be able to buy the book and to be able to see, what that book might have looked like at the time when it was sold, you can go in and see our pictures that are all cataloged on there, and they don't delete. It's not like eBay where in 90 days the pictures are gone, which a lot of websites, that's the way they work. They just save the link to eBay or something like that, and then you don't have access to those pictures. That's one of the biggest strengths, I think, is having those pictures. And in fact, there was even that scam that happened a while back with CGC where I forgot exactly what it was, but someone was able to use our site and use the pictures to be able to compare the books to see that someone swapped the books out.
Yeah.
It was Ryan from Automatic Comics. He's the one who actually went through all the site, got all the data from your site, and was able to figure out what had happened. So it's nice to see things like that. Not that someone did that as far as like what they did with the books, but to see that our tools
are being used, and they have a use, and there's multiple uses for them.
Yep.
And a lot of
Yep.
hard work goes into making those tools. Like my hat's off to the tech team, just from what they're able to put together, and just like how much they listen. And I guess that's the most important thing. Is I've worked for a lot of companies. I've worked in a hospital for most of my life, and a lot of the times you have the people that are working on the ground. You have the people that are the collectors themselves, and you're trying to talk to like tech who maybe aren't collectors themselves, and they don't really understand kind of what is helpful, what's not helpful, what is it actually like to use these tools? Because it might seem good or seem useful from the tech side, but when you're actually using it as a collector, you're like, I don't really need this, or this doesn't really work like I need it to. And I think that's the strongest point of the team that we have, is just how much they listen, and they're collectors themselves. So it's one of those things where it's just the best of both worlds to have someone who not only listens to the other people, but also themselves they're collecting. So they know, I know this is useful. I know we can use this tool because I would use this tool.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of our biggest strengths.
So Lawrence, if you go on to any comic book or item that you're following right now, and you look at the lineup of CGC, CBCS, PSA, and then ultimately the crowd reported sales, we have a new tab that's already sitting right in there, and it says compare.
Yep.
When you click on it, it's in its beta stage right now. We're open to any feedback as to how it can appear, and in any way in which you can compare all these different aspects of the grading companies, the sales, the numbers. And here's where it gets fun too. Transparency is basically just documentation. And when you line it up like that, with the ability to capture these really, really great images on our site, pretty soon we're going to be able to not just show you how like the numbers of a 9.8 stack up, right on top of each other without having to go page to page to page and give you all these insights. I want full-blown images on your site, on your screen, a 9.8 CGC, a 9.8 PSA. And I want you to be able to look at it and say, oh my gosh, like, look at the differences.
Yeah.
Like, what are we going to do?
Be a 9.8. Like, yeah.
Right.
Like
Who are we going to trust?
Mm-hmm.
It's wild.
So this brings me to like an interesting point. You guys have all these things on the site already, and there's a lot more things that are going to be added to the site over time as they become, better acclimated and more able to use easily. Are you guys ever afraid that like it's going to be a little bit too much for the collector to kind of navigate everything, or is like everything just going step by step to like prevent that from happening? You know what I mean?
So this actually is something that we've already been working on. And you had kind of brought up something similar earlier, but our tech team actually does go through and we look and see how someone kind of navigated through the site. And the reason why we do that is because you can actually kind of see where someone might get stuck, where they're navigating the site, and where they're maybe like, I don't really know where to go from here. I don't know kind of how to find exactly what I'm looking for. So that is something that we actually are already actively trying to work on, is trying to figure out what is like the best layout? What is the best way to like present this information? Because when you have so much data and you have so many collectible markets that you're part of, trying to make it so that someone can go on there. Like if you're just interested in Pokemon cards, but you're getting blasted with comic books and video games, you might be like, oh my God, like I don't even know where to go. Like I don't even know how to like navigate what I'm trying to find. So that is something that we're actively trying to kind of hammer down the most, is have a special search function that'll help it so that you can just kind of find what you want to find, with just like using the search bar itself. So that way, if you are looking for, say, just Pokemon cards or something like that, you're able to just easily see the search bar front and center, find what you want. But also have the kind of flow of the pages that come afterwards make the most sense for a collector, so that when they do find what they want, the next steps to what they want to do. Do I want to like put this in my collection tracker? Am I trying to find what something's worth? Am I trying to, see how many cards are in this set for Pokemon specifically? That kind of stuff is the kind of stuff we're trying to kind of push out there, so that it's not self-explanatory, but just it's just intuitive. It's easy to use. It's easy to kind of see what you want to do. And using tech is actually really helpful for that. And we're already using that as we speak to kind of try to see how are people navigating, where are they going, where are they getting stuck, What pages are getting used the most? Like what is like the most active part of the site that's getting the most, and what isn't? And then what can we do to kind of either tweak it to make it more useful or to maybe guide them into that direction a little better? So that's something that is super important because being able to navigate the site is top priority. You can have all the best data in the world, you can have all the tools, you can have all this stuff, but if your user doesn't know how to make it through the site or it's too confusing, they're not really useful. So that is something we're always trying to think about. And I think the most important thing, and I think is something that's a strength of GoCollect, and I just want to reiterate it, is how accessible we are. Like if you see something that you want added or you see something that you think should be different, just reach out to us. Like we listen, we hear all of these messages, and Tim is responding to pretty much everyone he possibly can to kind of be like, that's a great idea. Like let's try to kind of see where this goes, or maybe what can we do to like help this person? Like they're struggling with this part of the site. Is there something we can do to fix this? Or they're recommending this feature. Like can we make this happen? And can we do it like sooner rather than later? I think that's something that a lot of websites struggle with is they don't feel personable. They feel like it's like an entity. You're reaching out to kind of an entity, and it's not something that you feel like you maybe will get a response, or maybe you're going to get like an AI response, or maybe no response at all. Where I feel like with GoCollect, like you're going to get a response, and you're going to get, you're going to be heard. We're going to listen to you, and we're going to try to add whatever it is. If it makes sense, of course, we have to obviously work within what our resources are and what makes sense for the site. But that's the most important thing, is listening and hearing what consumers want and what people in this hobby are looking for, because that's should come above everything else. That's what we're trying to do, is provide people with exactly what they need, whatever tools they are. So reach out. That's all I can say is, and hopefully we can work together to try to make the place the best it can possibly be.
Yeah, we got some really cool tools. We do. I wonder sometimes if we have too much and it's not being utilized by all. But I know that with those really killer tools like Ryan at Automatic Comics, he can literally get the FBI involved in this hobby about what's going wrong. And so,
yeah, 100%.
But then on the exactly. But then on the baseline, that's where I really keeps me awake at night, is I want to get everybody happy when they come to our site. It's interesting because everybody's into pop culture. I wish we kind of talked more about just like pop culture in general, and why it is the thing that we collect. This is our mythology that's happening. I didn't even know Marvel. I didn't even know Marvel had Hercules and Thor in their lineup until I got older, and I was like I knew all along. Like we're creating our mythology all along, and these are the people we collect, and it makes so much sense because these are our heroes. This is our popular culture. It's celebrated by all, and we can't get enough of it. But can we keep the focus of someone who comes just for numbers, and make it more personal to them? Show them that character that they love, and let them explore more.
That's what this podcast is about. This is about pop culture, retro, collectibles. So like anybody who wants to come on and just talk about anything they love, that they grew up with and still love today as an adult, like that's exactly what this is. So final question I'm going to ask you guys before I give you the chance to ask me anything you want is, is there anything up your sleeve at GoCollect that you kind of mentioned, or maybe you can't, that nobody knows about, or maybe there's something that excited you that we haven't talked about today, or is there nothing on the back burner that we haven't talked about?
I got two. I got one that I can maybe tease you a little bit that we can't talk about, but it'll come out really, really soon. And this is gonna, I don't want to use the word revolutionize, so I won't. I'll just tease that I won't use the word revolutionize, but it's something that no one's ever been able to do. And that's the thing. We're all about that, trying to take it to the next level, find out what's not being done and see if we can make it. So there's that. We have something really, really cool coming up, but something it might even be out right now, or it might be on staging to get pushed out. So we've got a new search function where you can search for contributors, or you can search for a person. You can search your favorite artist, like let's just say Jack Kirby, right? Go on to GoCollect, go into the search, type in Jack Kirby. It'll pop up everything Jack Kirby in our database. It'll tabulate it, all his covers, all his interior, all his pencils, anytime he tried to write. And also, it'll notate how many key issues that we've noted from him as well. And if you happen to have some Kirby in your catalog so far, like in your collection right now, there'll be a bar at the bottom of it. It'll tell you the percentage of how much of a certain artist you've actually already accumulated and what's left. And that's the same kind of thing if you go into Pokemon and you type in and you add a few cards to your collection that's on GoCollect. All of a sudden, for that set, it's going to say, you've got about 6% of this set. We've got new ways to track your catalog that's you've already been building right now, and with the ability to search for contributors now, like let's say just type in Todd McFarlane. How many of you would be interested to find out what percentage of his full body of work that you actually have in your collection right now? You actually can. So
awesome.
That's something neat. You can probably go in and check out with anybody you want right now in any category. Yeah.
Awesome. You guys heard it here first on the Mighty Rewind podcast. That's it. I'm going to open the floor to you guys. You have any questions you want to ask me before we say goodbye?
Joe, I'll give this one to you. I might have talked too much.
I'm trying to think. I think we covered so many topics this time, so I'm trying to think if there's anything we even left out.
What should be next? So I'm going to take it then. What should be next?
Yeah,
what's the next big hobby we should get on right now so that it doesn't pass us by and we miss sales that are happening right now?
That's a great question. And unfortunately, I am not sure. Like, I would love to see you guys track like other cards besides Pokemon. Like, I'm a big garbage pail kid collector. I collect vintage garbage pail kids. Even some of the newer ones, obviously football, basketball cards, baseball cards, stuff like that. I think would be a big.
That'd be fun.
There's so many card collectors out there. It's bigger than comics. There's no question in my mind. So I don't know if it's big as Pokemon right now because that is just on another stratosphere. But the amount of because kids are involved. There's so many kids that collect sports cards. Yeah, that it's wild. When you guys are able to capture that market as well, coming onto your site, because kids use their phone, they use the websites, computers. If you get the kids on your site as well, forget it. It's a whole different ball game, right? If you'd like to become a sponsor here on the Mighty Rewind podcast, make sure you reach out at the Mighty Rewind podcast at gmail.com.